And I mean, the people who are going to look at 61 being magical and not whatever Barry Bonds hit in a year, I don't even know what that was. And I'm Mr. Cub, with all due respect to Ernie Banks, and I don't know Sosa's individual numbers. I know he topped 63 times. And I don't know Mark McGwire's numbers. I know 60 for Ruth and 61 for Maris. And so those are the numbers for me. So when Judge hit that one last night, that meant something special to me. But Tony, as I talk to people who are younger, like my son, he's like, Dad, why do you just diss Barry Bonds like this? How come you don't count Barry Bonds' number? And I try to explain it. And I know you ain't paying attention to Barry Bonds' number or Sosa's numbers or McGwire's number. You're paying attention to 60 and 61. I think this is almost entirely age dependent.
I agree with you right down the line. I don't know Sosa's numbers. I don't care about 70 and 73. I grew up with 60 and 61. 61 to me is a remarkable achievement. It is. But I think he's got to hit at least one more. I think he's got to go to at least 62. I think that with the time that he has, you don't want to just tie another guy's record. You want to set it on your own so you get the acclaim that you deserve. He's got 7 games left. Mikey had 61 home runs and they played 155 games. So that's 1 home run every 2.5 games, which is why the other day I thought he'd go to 63 or 64. And for me, if he wins the Triple Crown, can I get these numbers? Because I wrote them down. At the moment, he's batting 3-1-3-3-2. And I'm sorry, 3-1-3-4-0. And Luis Arraez is 3-1-3-3-2. Right? Yeah. It's really close. It's really close. But if Aaron Judge were to get the Triple Crown, it would certainly be one of the 2, 3, or 4 greatest seasons ever. And I could sit here in this chair and make a case that it's the greatest because of the pressure. But I want to see him get to at least 62. I do.
Yeah, I guess I do, Tone. It's muddled. And I'm always I'm not going to change the way I feel after my whole life of thinking, look, just like the 700 situation. It's 755 and it's 714 to me. That's it.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
it's
right.
Henry Aaron and it's Babe F. Ruth. That's the way I'm wired. And listen, yeah. I'm not going to fight people. I'm not going to suggest anybody be thrown in jail for celebrating the other numbers.
Not today.
But I'm not going to celebrate those numbers. This is, it's sad that records have become personal because records are not supposed to be personal. Wilt's 100 is Wilt's 100. There's nothing else to celebrate. That's it. But baseball, because
I'm going to celebrate
steroids,
one thing.
What?
Let me give you this. I'm going to celebrate the fact that Roger Maris Jr. showed up at all these games and enthusiastically supported Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
Because it could have been people in that family would hold on and covet 61 and not want anybody to get close to it. So I will tip my hat to Roger Maris Jr.
Good for them.
I will.
Amen. Yep. The Dolphins and the Bengals are back on the field just 4 days after putting up wins. The Bengals beat the lowly Jets while the unbeaten Dolphins took down a really, really, really good Bills team. Tua was hurt in that game, back and ankle, but is expected to play tonight. And the Dolphins' defense was on the field for 40 minutes and 90 plays in 90-degree heat. So, Tone, should we reduce our expectations for the 3-0 Dolphins given all of that?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to a place that you don't respect, but other people care about it a little bit. At first, the notion was that the turnaround was going to be hard on the Dolphins, but it's the same turnaround for Cincinnati. So I'm going to cancel that out.
I don't care about that.
But what is going on in Vegas right now is very interesting. Because the Dolphins, well, you give me 20 seconds here before you scoff.
Even 30.
The Dolphins are 3-0 and Cincinnati is 1-2. And yet the Dolphins are getting 3.5 points after just beating the Bills.
The Bengals are going to win the game. They're going to win the game.
This is an indication, well, let me get to that. This is an indication that people in Las Vegas want you to bet on the Dolphins because they actually don't think they're going to win. So let's add these things up. To me, the biggest variable is Tua. I know he's going to play, but how effective is he going to be? So you got that. You add that to the fact that there is that heat exhaustion factor with Miami's defense being out there in 100-degree heat for a protracted period of time. Okay, well, to me, that's a big deal. What's the third thing that I had in here? And then, the probable emotional letdown for Miami after beating a terrific team in Buffalo in a great game. That's what gives you 3.5 points, and that's why people think it's a trap game. You, for example, are convinced Cincinnati will win.
I don't give a damn about any of those factors. Cincinnati's going to win this game.
We know that.
If the game was played on Sunday, Cincinnati's going to win the game. Miami's a terrific team. They're not diminished at all by losing to Cincinnati if they do. Cincinnati's still trying to get itself back, Tony, after those first 2 games. They could have won both of those, but they didn't. So Cincinnati,
That's right.
These are even teams, and people make way too big a damn deal over what's an upset. This is the National Football. This is pro sports. This is not Chaminade versus Virginia. This is pro sports. They all have access to the same stuff. They do. The same people, the same common draft, the same free agents. Stop it.
That's right.
The Bengals aren't any better than Miami. They're just going to win this game tonight. That's all. It doesn't mean anything.
You know
and
what I
tomorrow
hope
is
for?
not going to mean anything.
Let me tell you what I hope for.
What?
I hope that these 2 quarterbacks put on a show, Joe Burrow and Tua, put on a show like they did in college.
That
When
would be
Burrow's
fun.
team won
That'd be good.
46-41. When they
Yeah.
were at Alabama and LSU, 46-41, 7 touchdown passes between them. And Mike,
That'd be
if you
fun.
look at those rosters of those 2 teams, they're probably 25 first-round draft picks in the whole of it. Probably.
That's a lot,
We move on
Tom.
to
That's a lot.
well, you got 4 years of
I'll
eligibility.
take the under.
so
I'm going to go
saying that.
17. I'm going to go a little under that. But I get your point, though.
We'll see. Somebody will look it up. Brett Favre continues to be in the news for his part in raising money to build a volleyball facility at his alma mater, Southern Mississippi, where his daughter was a volleyball player. At the heart of the controversy is the fact that welfare funds were somehow siphoned into the facility. Most recently, it was reported that Favre's charitable foundation, Favre for Hope, which has a stated mission to support disadvantaged children and breast cancer patients, donated more than $130,000 to the Southern Miss Athletic Foundation during the years Favre was trying to get the volleyball facility built. Wilbon, how does all this make Favre look?
Smarmy. I mean, it looks bad. It looks bad. It sounds bad. If the state of Mississippi has a civil suit out there, then somebody there thinks it's bad. I mean, Brett Favre has been a heroic figure in Mississippi. I mean, Wisconsin too, but first Mississippi, and I think that's where he's gone back to live and to be and exist and be celebrated. And yet you have, Tony, Mississippi, by any real metrics, is the poorest state in the union. And so what are you doing? Like, how can you justify this? The first day I saw the story and read a part of it, wherever it was published, where I saw it in the Washington Post probably, I just said, I can't read this. This puts me off. And I know it makes me feel a certain way about the situation and Favre, which I did not feel otherwise.
Yeah, he looks terrible. There's no denying that. It is important to say for the record that Brett Favre has not been charged criminally. It is important to say for the record that Brett Favre says he did not know where this money came from. But he looks terrible. I mean, this money is supposed to go to impoverished people and people suffering from cancer, and it ends up somehow involved with a volleyball facility where his daughter played. And beyond that, I'm pretty sure I've read this, that Brett Favre has given back over $1 million, which indicates some sense of liability, if not guilt, in this thing. I've read the stories. When I'm done reading them, Mike, I don't really understand the nuance and the detail in them. I know that there have been some public officials who have pleaded guilty. I know that this involves a former governor, and so let me say, and I'm sure you agree with me, Brett Favre was one of the most exciting, fabulous football players we have ever seen. But this is not about that.
No,
this
it
is
has
not
nothing to do with
about
that.
a football player.
It's about
this
human
is something.
flaws.
It seems to me that what we are talking about is the possibility of people who've been put on pedestals and guarded up for such a long period of time that they lose touch with everyday life and everyday rules, and they think their privilege extends beyond what other people think it is.
And listen,
I don't know.
He's not. The description that you just put there, which is perfect, about being guarded up and what you think you can get away with, he wouldn't be the first, celebrity,
That's right. Or the
public
last.
figure, athlete to do that, and he's not going to be the last.
last.
But it doesn't mean you
That's
skate
right.
and you don't get criticized if you are in that circumstance and people feel you put yourself there, especially if there's evidence that you did.
Let's take